They said it was impossible to capture the magic, the controversy, and the pure genius of the greatest entertainer to ever walk the earth. But Michael did not just try, it completely conquered the world. In the United States alone, this movie has turned into an absolute cultural phenomenon, smashing box office records with a historic global collection that is rapidly closing in on the $1.5 billion mark. Across America, from die-hard fans who lived through Thriller-mania to Gen Z discovering his Moonwalk on TikTok, people are leaving theaters in tears, calling it the definitive cinematic event of the decade. This is not just a movie review. This is an all-access, deep-dive breakdown of how a young boy from Gary, Indiana, carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, redefined human history. We are going to analyze how this film bravely addresses every single part of his complicated life, the breathtaking musical sequences, the dark controversies, and why the USA audience is absolutely losing its mind over this masterpiece. To truly understand the impact of this film, we have to start where the movie starts, in the gritty, raw, and crowded Jackson household in Gary, Indiana. The film pulls no punches from the very first frame. We immediately feel the suffocating tension driven by Joe Jackson, played with terrifying, brilliant intensity by Colman Domingo. The director shows us the harsh reality of a working-class black family trying to find a way out of poverty. But the cost of that escape was high. The film beautifully contrasts the pure angelic voice of a young Michael against the strict, relentless rehearsals enforced by his father. You see the exact moment the child inside Michael was locked away to protect the superstar the world demanded. There is a heartbreaking scene where young Michael watches other kids playing outside the window while he is forced to practice his dance steps over and over until his feet bleed. It sets the emotional foundation for the rest of the film, making us realize that Michael's eccentricities later in life weren't random. They were the direct result of a stolen childhood. As the timeline shifts to the late 1970s, Giuliano Cruvaldi hands over the glove to Jaafar Jackson, Michael's real-life nephew, and the transformation is nothing short of eerie. When Jaafar steps onto the screen, the theater goes dead silent. The posture, the soft-spoken voice, the sudden explosive energy the moment music hits his veins, it feels like watching a resurrection. It's not just an imitation, it is an embodiment. You can see the familial resemblance in his eyes, but it's the replication of Michael's unique energy, that mixture of extreme vulnerability off-stage and absolute dominance on stage, that anchors the entire narrative. The second act of the film is a masterclass in pure musical euphoria, and this is where the movie truly explodes. We watch the grueling, brilliant creation of the Asterisk Off the Wall and Thriller Asterisk albums. The director takes us deep behind the scenes into the recording studio alongside the legendary Quincy Jones. We see Michael's obsession with perfection, how he heard sounds no one else could hear, how he tapped his feet to create a rhythm, and how he fought the record executives to turn a simple bass line into the masterpiece we know as Billie Jean. When the movie recreates the iconic 1983 Motown 25 performance, where Michael debuts the Moonwalk to the world, the cinematography shifts completely. The camera tracking makes you feel like you are sitting right there in the front row of the Pasadena Civic Auditorium. The energy is electric. You witness the exact moment pop culture changed forever. The film perfectly captures the sheer scale of Thriller-mania, the red leather jackets, the global hysteria, and how Michael Jackson single-handedly broke the racial barriers on MTV, forcing the entire music industry to bend to his will. The USA audience in theaters has been literally cheering and clapping during these musical sequences, treating the cinema hall like a live concert. But Michael Asterisk does not just celebrate the highs. It walks directly into the darkest, most controversial storms of his life, which is exactly why this film is getting so much critical respect in America. The script handles the intense media scrutiny, the changing physical appearance, the devastating loneliness inside the gates of Neverland, and the heavy reliance on prescription medication with incredible empathy, without erasing the facts. We see the tragic irony of a man who owned the entire world but couldn't walk down a public street without being hunted like an animal. The paparazzi are portrayed almost like monsters in a horror movie, flashing cameras constantly in his face, trapping him in a cage of his own immense fame. The film shows Michael trying desperately to recreate the childhood he never had, building Neverland as a sanctuary, not just for himself, but for children who were suffering. However, the film doesn't shy away from how the world misunderstood his innocence, leading to the ultimate betrayal. When the film reaches the 1993 allegations and the subsequent grueling 2005 trial, It shifts from a musical biopic into a heavy, emotional courtroom and psychological drama. The toll these legal battles took on Michael's mind, body, and soul is laid bare. We see him wasting away, losing weight, losing his spirit, and becoming a shadow of the vibrant performer we saw in the first half. It shows a man deeply hurt by the accusation that he could harm the very people he dedicated his life to protecting, children. Nia Long, playing Michael's mother Jaafar Jackson, delivers a powerhouse performance in these scenes, representing the emotional rock of the family as they fight to clear his name. The film then transitions into the final emotional chapter, the preparation for the This Is It comeback concerts in London in 2009. We see a fragile but determined Michael, still pushing for perfection, still demanding the best from his dancers and musicians, even as his health is failing. The ending of the film is an absolute emotional powerhouse. It doesn't focus on the tragedy of his passing, but rather builds into a massive, cinematic celebration of his artistic legacy that leaves audiences in absolute silence before breaking into standing ovations across theaters in New York, Los Angeles and Chicago. The response across the United States has been absolutely overwhelming. Audiences are praising the film for its honesty, its courage, and its refusal to sanitize Michael's complex life to please critics. On review platforms like Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is skyrocketing, proving that the love for the King of Pop in America remains unbreakable. Financially, the film is an absolute juggernaut. With its massive domestic opening and international appeal, it has become one of the highest-grossing biopics in cinema history, well on its way to hitting that $1.5 billion milestone. The film successfully reminds us that behind the headlines, the scandals, the masks, and the myth, there was a deeply fragile, incredibly gifted human being who just wanted to heal the world through his music and dance. Michael is more than a biopic. It is a spectacular, heartbreaking, and deeply moving tribute to the greatest entertainer of all time. It is a definitive must-watch that proves, even decades later, nobody can ever touch the throne of the King of Pop. Michael Jackson was, is, and will always be one of a number.